Hashtag single dad texted, "I love you," to boss by mistake. She showed up and whispered this. Mark's hands trembled as he stared at his phone in horror. The text meant for his daughter, "Love you, princess. Dad's working late but I'll be home to tuck you in," had just been sent to his stern, always professional boss, Catherine Williams. If you've ever felt that stomach-dropping moment when you realize you've made a terrible mistake, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that will touch your heart and remind you that sometimes our biggest blunders lead to unexpected blessings. 3 years after losing his wife to cancer, Mark Jenkins was barely keeping it together. Between raising 8-year-old Lily alone and trying to prove himself at his new job at Williams Architecture, every day felt like walking a tightrope without a safety net. His mother-in-law watched Lily after school, but the guilt of not being there enough for his daughter weighed on him constantly. Catherine Williams had built her architecture firm from nothing, earning a reputation for brilliance and uncompromising standards. At 38, she was known throughout Chicago as the Ice Queen, respected, feared, but never truly known by anyone. The walls she'd built around herself were more impenetrable than any structure she'd ever designed. Mark stared at his phone, watching with dread as the message status changed to "Read." He quickly typed, "Ms. Williams, I am so sorry. That message was meant for my daughter." No response came. He put his phone down and tried to focus on the Henderson Project blueprints, but his mind kept racing. Would she fire him? He couldn't lose this job, not with Lily's school tuition and the medical bills still piling up. At 7:30 p.m., long after most employees had left, Mark was still hunched over his desk when he heard the distinctive click of heels on marble. Catherine Williams stood in his doorway, her expression unreadable. "You're still here," she said, not a question but an observation. "Yes, ma'am. The Henderson Project needs these revisions by morning." Catherine stepped into his office, her eyes falling on the framed photo of Lily on his desk. "Your daughter?" Mark nodded, swallowing hard. "Lily. She's 8. You call her princess?" Catherine's voice held no mockery, just curiosity. "Since she was born," Mark admitted, bracing himself for whatever came next. Catherine was silent for a long moment. "My father called me that too," she finally said, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. "Until I was 12. Then he left and never came back." The revelation hung in the air between them. "I've watched you, Jenkins. You're talented. But you're always rushing out at 5, turning down team dinners, missing networking events." Mark's heart sank. This was it, the firing he'd been dreading. "I thought you weren't committed," she continued. "But that text, it made me realize I've been measuring commitment all wrong." She moved closer, picking up Lily's photo. "I had a father who was at every business dinner but never at my ballet recitals. What does Lily have? A dad who's trying his best but failing at everything," Mark admitted, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Catherine placed the photo down carefully. "I don't think so. I think she has someone who remembers to say, 'I love you,' even when he's drowning in work." She pulled a chair up to his desk and sat down. "Tell me about her." Surprised, Mark found himself talking about Lily, her love of stars and planets, how she still slept with her mother's scarf, her struggle with math but brilliance with words. "She sounds remarkable," Catherine said when he finished. "Like her father." Mark looked up, startled. "Jenkins, Mark, I've been running this firm like it's the only thing that matters. But that text, it reminded me there's more to life." She leaned forward. "I want to make some changes around here. More flexible hours. Remote work options. A daycare center on the 3rd floor." Mark couldn't believe what he was hearing. "And I want you to head the new family-friendly workplace initiative. With a substantial raise." She stood up. "Now go home. Those revisions can wait until tomorrow." As Mark gathered his things in stunned silence, Catherine moved to the door, then turned back. And Mark? That text was the first time anyone has said those words to me in 26 years. She smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. It was nice, even if it wasn't meant for me. 6 months later, Williams Architecture was featured in Business Weekly for its revolutionary workplace policies. Employee retention was up, and so was productivity. Mark's family-friendly initiative had become a model for firms across the country. But the biggest change was in Catherine. The Ice Queen had thawed. She still demanded excellence, but now she also demanded balance. She'd become a regular at company family days and had started a scholarship fund for children who had lost parents. And every Friday, she had dinner with Mark and Lily. It started as a business meeting that first week, but when Lily had asked Catherine if she wanted to see her science project, something shifted. Soon, Friday dinners became a tradition. Catherine taught Lily about architecture while Lily taught Catherine about constellations. One Friday evening, as they walked through the park after dinner, Lily ran ahead to the playground, leaving Mark and Catherine alone. "She called me Aunt Kathy today," Catherine said quietly. "At school. Her teacher told me when I picked her up." Mark had started letting Catherine pick Lily up on Wednesdays when he had client meetings. It had begun as a practical arrangement but had evolved into something more. "Is that okay?" Mark asked, watching her carefully. Catherine's eyes followed Lily as she climbed the jungle gym. "I never wanted children. I told myself my buildings were my legacy." She turned to Mark. "But now I can't imagine Wednesdays without her stories about recess drama and which boy has the worst cooties." Mark laughed. "She adores you. You know she started drawing buildings instead of stars, right?" Something flickered across Catherine's face, pride, tenderness, and something else Mark couldn't quite name. "I never thanked you," she said suddenly. "For what?" "That text. The mistake that wasn't really a mistake." She looked at him directly. "It woke me up, Mark. I was becoming someone I never wanted to be." As the sun began to set, casting golden light across the park, Lily called for them to watch her go down the slide. They moved closer together to wave at her. "I've been thinking," Catherine said, her voice hesitant in a way Mark had never heard before. "The Henderson project in San Francisco, they want someone to oversee the final stages on site for 3 months." Mark felt a pang of disappointment. "When do you leave?" "That's just it. I'd normally go myself, but..." She took a deep breath. "I don't want to miss Friday dinners. Or Wednesday pickups. Or..." She looked at him. "Or any of this." Mark felt something shift between them, a possibility opening up that he hadn't allowed himself to consider. "I was going to send Davis," she continued. "Unless you think it would be inappropriate for the boss to keep having dinner with her employee and his daughter." Mark smiled slowly. "I think we passed appropriate boss-employee relationship somewhere around the time you started helping Lily with her math homework in your pajamas." Catherine laughed, the sound bright and free. "So maybe we should stop pretending this is just about work." "Maybe we should," Mark agreed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. As Lily ran back to them, Catherine knelt down to her level. "Your dad and I were thinking maybe we could try a movie night this weekend. What do you think?" Lily's face lit up. "Can we watch Stars from the Roof Garden like you promised?" "Absolutely," Catherine said, glancing at Mark with a smile. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Mark found himself on his balcony with Catherine, 2 glasses of wine between them and the city lights sparkling below. "I never thought I'd feel this way again," Mark admitted. "After Sarah died, I thought that part of my life was over." Catherine's hand found his in the darkness. "I never thought I'd feel this way at all. I was so focused on proving myself, on never being vulnerable. And now?" She turned to him, her professional mask completely gone. "Now I'm terrified. But I'm more afraid of going back to who I was before that text." Mark squeezed her hand. For what it's worth, I liked who you were before too. You were brilliant and driven and intimidating as hell. She laughed. Intimidating? Completely. But now you're all that and something more. Catherine leaned closer. What happens now, Mark? This is uncharted territory for me. We take it one day at a time, he said simply. No blueprints, no 5-year plans. Just us figuring it out together. She nodded, then reached for her phone. After typing briefly, she put it away. Seconds later, Mark's phone buzzed with a text. He opened it to find 3 simple words, I love you. His eyes met hers, questioning. Just practicing, she whispered, her voice catching. For when I'm ready to say it and mean it. Because I think I could, with you and Lily. I really think I could. 1 year later, as Catherine stood in the doorway of Lily's bedroom, watching Mark tuck his daughter in, she felt a fullness in her chest that still surprised her. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been missteps and arguments, moments of fear and retreat. But there had also been laughter, growth, and a deepening connection that none of them had expected. Dad, Lily whispered as Mark kissed her forehead, did you mean to send that text to Catherine? Mark glanced up, catching Catherine's eye across the room. What do you mean, princess? You never make mistakes like that. You're super careful with your phone. Lily's eyes were serious in the dim light. Did you send it to her on purpose? Mark was silent for a moment. Would it matter if I did? Lily considered this, then smiled. No. Because it worked out perfect. After Lily had fallen asleep, Mark found Catherine in their kitchen, designing a treehouse for the backyard of the home they now shared. Did you? She asked without looking up from her sketch. Did I what? Send that text on purpose. She finally looked at him, her expression curious rather than accusing. Mark leaned against the counter. Would it change anything if I had? Catherine set down her pencil. It would mean you saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. I saw someone who built walls as beautiful as her buildings, Mark said quietly. Someone who needed to hear those words as much as I needed someone to share them with. Catherine stood and moved to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. So you did send it on purpose. Mark smiled against her hair. Let's just say I didn't try very hard to stop it. She laughed softly. Thank God for that. As they stood there in the quiet kitchen of the home they'd built together, not of concrete and steel but of second chances and brave hearts, Mark thought about how one text, one moment of either courage or carelessness, had changed everything. What are you thinking? Catherine asked, looking up at him. Mark smiled. That some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Catherine reached for her phone on the counter and typed something quickly. Seconds later, Mark's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out to read her message, I love you. And this time, it's definitely not a mistake. If this story touched your heart, remember that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our biggest blunders. Life rarely goes according to plan, but often leads us exactly where we need to be. Hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us of the unexpected ways love finds us, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that second chances are always possible, sometimes just a text message away.